My name is David.
And my name is Jason.
And this is Discern Realities, a Dungeon World podcast. Hey listeners, before this segment, I just want to let you know there are some spoilers in this about OSR module called Deathfrost Doom, so if you have not played it and are wanting to play it, you may not want to listen to this segment. Our first segment is what happened here recently. Well, Jason, today I would like to tell you a little story about finally getting to play a face-to-face game of Dungeon World. I haven't been able to do that in forever. Everything I've been doing has either been over Hangouts or in play-by-post form, and it was amazing playing in person again.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Play-by-post is like, if Dungeon World's a drug, it's like a drip feed. This was like full-blown, I just got a mountain of whatever Dungeon World drug is.
That's a good analogy. I like that. It's good.
So I had some friends from work who had been listening to the podcast and had never played Dungeon World, and I've been talking to them about Dungeon World, and they were like, hey, do you think you could run a game for us? And I was like, I would love to run a game for you. They were wanting something a little bit more like Van Helsing, kind of like evil monsters, and it's scary. So I thought of a great time that I had with something creepy in Dungeon World that you ran for us over a weekend called Deathfrost Doom.
Yay, Deathfrost Doom. That's a good one.
Yeah, it really turned out to be the perfect thing for them to experience as their first Dungeon World. So Deathfrost Doom, for listeners, is Lamentations of the Flame Princess module. But we, Jason and myself, have both converted it in different ways to suit our Dungeon World campaigns.
Yeah, I don't like my conversion. My conversion sucks. But I was back before I kind of had really mastered my OSR conversions for DW. So
right. So I just kind of took the advice that you gave when you were talking about in a previous episode how to convert OSR modules. I took that advice. I read through the module and kind of synthesized it, cut out some things that I didn't like, and really I shortened the whole module down to a single session because I wanted them to kind of have a really boiled down good experience since it was their first time playing. And in my opinion, like Deathfrost Doom, the whole thing can play a little slow.
Yeah, it's an OSR module, and it has a lot of the trappings of old school play, which I think implies a certain amount of just crawling around from room to room, trying to figure out puzzles or like solutions. It's a little methodical, and it can be a little plotting. I kind of know what you're going. I kind of get what you're saying there. It's not quite as like fast paced and zippy as Dungeon World can be, right? There's a balance there to like getting the feeling of the module without getting caught up in the details of the module, right?
Yeah. And I think that using your method, I came to a pretty good middle ground where it was still a creeping horror of going through this cultist's lair, the Duvanku cult lair, and finding these horrifying things and being scared, and then finding the ultimate horror at the end when you accidentally unleash this undead horde upon the earth.
Yeah.
Unless it would be very, very difficult to get through that dungeon without accidentally having that happen, but it happened.
Yeah, they say I've heard people say like the correct solution to Deathfrost Doom is to literally not do it. Like you just turn around and leave. Like that's the only solution to that dungeon.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of crazy.
That's a solution. I didn't make that the solution, but it was almost inevitable that was what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Of course, at the end of the dungeon is this king who has been frozen in time, and in my version, he's very, very tall, like 7 or 8 feet tall, and he's of supernatural origins. He's kind of like a demonic vampire kind of creature, and of course, the players they're not prepared to deal with him. He's demanding that they serve him, and they don't want to do that, but he's kind of forcing their hand, and in the end, he enlists one of them to be part of his undead horde, which I actually made a compendium class and had my player take that on as well. They loved it. They were gushing over it, and I was like, it was just amazing. It felt so good to play with people.
Yeah, that's awesome. People know Deathfrost Doom by name and reputation. Even just like cracking open the pages, especially Zach Smith's revised one, which is what most people have nowadays. It just feels really special and cool.
Well, that's all I wanted to say about it. Just that Dungeon World face-to-face is the best experience, but...
Holla.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. Our next segment is What Should I Be on the Lookout For? Jason, I understand you had something for us this week.
Yeah, real quick thing, actually. So in the last couple of days on the Tavern and other places, this blog page has been making the rounds. It's a blog called Dieheart, D-I-E, second word, H-E-A-R-T, Dieheart. And they have a Dungeon World resources page, and it's pretty fucking awesome. It's really good. A lot of people complain often because there are so many resources available for Dungeon World, but they're rarely collected in one place. Like, they're really difficult to kind of find. And this one has a fairly comprehensive list of links to things that are out there for Dungeon World, adventures and playbooks and other online resources for like homebrewing your own material and zines and all kinds. It's got so much stuff. I haven't even had a chance to look through all of it, but I discovered all kinds of things that I wasn't aware of, and I've been involved in Dungeon World for a long time. And so I think people should check that out. We'll include a link in the show notes, but this Dungeon World resource page is really well curated and just a tremendous thing to have at your fingertips.
Yeah, that sounds really, really useful. I haven't gotten a chance to look at it yet. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and move on to our next segment. Our next segment is What Here Is Not What It Appears to Be. Jason, this week I'd like to talk about compendium classes a little bit more.
It's a theme lately.
Yeah. It's pretty great. I haven't gotten to use them until very recently. Since we started talking about them, I've been looking at them more and more. And I think it would be helpful for listeners to just kind of understand maybe a bit more about how to make them, in particular how to convert them from maybe a playbook that you think might be a little too obscure for a full playbook and make them into a compendium class for an existing character, and also a way that I'm implementing them in my games that listeners might find useful as well.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear this. Go ahead.
I think the biggest part about compendium classes is you can do all kinds of cool things with them that you could make an entire playbook out of it, but really that's probably just part of a character's life. Like, in my opinion, even the Bard playbook might be better off as a compendium class than as a full playbook.
I agree completely. Like, all sorts of people travel the world and collect stories, right? And play music. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I really had that thought because of a book that I've referenced on the show before, The First in the Kingkiller Chronicles, The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. His protagonist of the story is chiefly an arcanist and a warrior, but he really is like heavily a bard in the story. So it's like, why would if I was going to play that character in Dungeon World, I wouldn't choose bard, even though like he was born a bard and that's like a big thing that he identifies with. But I would still want to have those kind of moves around. Yeah,
I see what you're saying. I mean, mine has always been, I think the core playbook's really well play tested and work well. Like, I like to stay within those parameters as much as possible, you know?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100% there, but I also have that bent as well. How I see this going is typically your compendium class has some kind of trigger that's going to allow the player to take it. In my Deathfrost Doom game, I had a player who took this compendium class because he made a deal with an NPC. Because he made that deal, he was then able to join that player's army. And so that kind of opened up the starting move. Typically, the starting move is just you have to play your next advancement into it to get that compendium class. And then you can get the additional moves. I just let the player have it because of the nature of the game and how things were going.
Yeah, I think that's okay. Yeah, I've done that plenty of times. I sometimes don't do a whole compendium class, but if something happens in the fiction that I think warrants a character having like a new move for some reason, I just give them the move.
Yeah. So how I see this going for if you're converting a playbook is think about what that playbook is about. Like, say that you're taking like a pirate playbook or something like that. A pirate, like that could be anyone really. That's just like or a fighter or a ranger or a paladin or whoever who's decided that now they're going to be on a ship and they're okay with raiding other ships. You could just take that playbook and say the trigger for this is the first time that you raid another ship. You can take this compendium class. That's the trigger. And then the starting move is something a good move that you think that pirate playbook has as the starting move, and then pick your 4 favorite moves off of that. And now it's a compendium class.
I would venture to say the best moves in the playbook, and most of these playbooks, are going to be like the initial set that you get. That initial set is usually like the defining moves for the playbook, right? So I think I would always look there first, moving on to the advanced stuff.
Definitely. And you want to take a look at the advanced moves because some of them might be pretty cool, but make sure that you curate them pretty closely because chances are they may not have been play tested a whole bunch. And if you look at it and it sounds cool, it might be a little too cool. So think about it in actual play before you add it to the book.
And you want like maybe 4 or 5 total? It
seems like the right amount. And here's why. Because your player is going to be taking this at some stage in their life cycle, their 10 level stage. And that means they only have 10 points to spend. So you don't want to add like 10 moves in there because they're not gonna have enough points to get most of them anyways. So here's my idea for a good delivery system for compendium classes into a campaign and into an existing campaign.
I'm really interested in hearing this because this is the hardest part of compendium classes for me. Like, how do you get them into the game?
Right. So here's what I am committing to doing with my players in my ongoing campaign. When they reach level 3, as their character does, I will start a conversation with the player about what they see their character going. Because by level 3, you should have some good backstory and narrative going on and circumstances surrounding the characters.
Yeah.
And hopefully they have an idea of where they see their character going. And if they do, we can start a conversation about what kind of compendium class they might be interested in taking. And I'm going to do my best by level 4 to have a compendium class prepared for them to trigger.
You mean like you're going to like set up the fiction to trigger it? Like you're going to have that ready to go in the story, or what? What do you mean?
Well, so I mean like if it's got to do with what's going on right now in the fiction, say, you know, like my characters are right now like in the ocean fighting Tritons and they're on a boat and all this. So if one of them was like interested in taking some kind of pirate compendium class, then I would make it available by level 4 so that they could trigger it and do it and start that playbook. If it's something that's not in the fiction right now, but they see their character going that way, like they're a wizard and they keep investigating these different kinds of arcane arts, I might say, oh, you know, you might not be able to find that here because this is kind of a pirate thing, but I bet you if you travel over here, and I will have a compendium class already ready, if you go there and do some training or something, and you can trigger that compendium class.
Okay. Yeah, okay. That's interesting.
I think level 3 is right around when they should be having a good idea of where their character's going to be, and their character's getting sturdy enough that they're probably not just going to get killed straight away by trying to get to this compendium class event. Yeah, it's just a way of them kind of goalposting where they see their character going in another way, and a way for me to engage that with a compendium class.
Well, and also, honestly, like I've played with enough people and played enough sessions of Dungeon World to have figured out that the moves, the advanced moves that players are like, there's usually only about 2 or 3 that they're really excited to like take as soon as they can upon leveling up, right? And then after that, it becomes a more like, okay, well that's cool, or that's cool. Like they don't have as many, like there aren't as many that like just are screaming at them, you know? So it might be a good time at that point to give them some more options anyway. So
yeah, that's true too. I know like usually there's like 2 moves that I really, really want, and then the rest are like buffs.
Level 3 seems like a good time to have the conversation.
Well, I think that's all that I had to say about it. I hope listeners find that useful and interesting. I'm looking forward to getting started with it. My players are just about to hit level 3, so I'm going to be making some compendium classes.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next segment. Our next segment is What Here is Useful or Valuable to Me? Jason, what do you have for us this week?
Okay, I've got a badass custom move this week. So this is a custom move that I have used plenty, and I know it works, and I know the players like it. What it is it's a custom move that lets you abstract the navigation of a labyrinth or like a big maze, okay? And I mean like a really big labyrinth or a big maze. If it's something small scale, you can just maybe use a map and actually work it out like in real time or whatever. But for something that's like really grand and labyrinthine and, that you could easily get lost in for, for days or whatever, this custom move works great as a way of abstracting that. So as I have the custom move written, presently as I have it written, it was written to help my players have a session in the castle of Vlad Vortigern, the Red King of Wawodja, which is from the A Red and Pleasant Land OSR setting. And so the move is written for that, but you can easily adapt it for any labyrinth that has a couple of features. It's got guardians or dangers, it has treasures, and then it has a thing that you're trying to actually get to at the other side or in the heart of the labyrinth. Okay. So here's how the move is written. When you attempt to navigate Vlad's palace, describe how you do it and then roll plus stat. So there, I would have the player describe like how they're like what methodologies they're using to navigate the palace or the labyrinth, and then we that dictates what stat they get to roll.
Gotcha.
On a 12 plus, you hold 2. On a 10 plus, you hold 1. On a 7 and 9, you hold 1, but you also encounter a guardian. On a miss, you just encounter a guardian. And on a 1 to 3, you also lose all your hold. It's a really drawn out move. It's got a range from 1 to 3 to 12 plus, right? And that's okay. That's within the rules. To find one of Vlad's treasures, you spend 1 hold and then describe the room that it's found in. You may spend 3 hold at any time to find the entrance to Vlad's inner sanctum, which is what their ultimate goal in the palace was, right? So that's the whole move. It works great because it's got like a bit of a give and take to it. So the players are describing, they're describing going through this labyrinth. I'm having them describe what they see. I'm asking them lots of questions about like what they see in the environment and how they feel. And, are they getting frustrated? Like, or what sorts of things are you starting to observe in the environment that you're seeing over and over again? I try to like ask lots of questions to sort of tease out like the experience of roaming around in this labyrinth, right? You have them roll at a certain point when they tell you how they're navigating. They're trying to get to 3 hold total to find the goal, but they can choose to spend some of that hold that they're earning in order to find treasures, right? But if they keep doing it, there's a chance they could lose all their hold, or they might run into guardians every now and then. I mean, it really does feel like you're navigating a giant maze without having to actually have drawn a giant fucking maze and have the players tell you whether they're turning left or right all the time, right?
That's great. I really, really like that. That's what Dungeon World does. It abstracts things and makes them easier to be cinematic about, and less about like, oh, I have a hidden maze from you that you guys don't get to see. Tell me when you're turning left.
Right, exactly.
I'm trying to track you on a piece of paper.
Yeah, I'm super proud of this move. It was a lot of thought went into it on my end, and now I'm giving it to you listeners for free. So
for free. Oh man, I'm going to use it this. I'm going to use it this Friday. I mean, I'm super excited about it. How many treasures do you usually include before you're like, and you've got enough treasures?
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm thinking you can probably fiddle with all the numbers here. So if you intend for this to be just like a single session, the move as I have it written is probably the right way. If you intend for it to be like a really long-term session, maybe you bump up the number of hold that's required to reach the inner sanctum, right? To like 4 or 5. It just depends. I think in this particular palace, or this labyrinth palace of Vlad's, I think I had like a total of like 5 treasures or something like that. So.
Okay. And then like as many guardians?
Yeah, well the guardians, I had like 3 different types of guardians, I think. And there was like, kind of patrolling guards. There were traps, a couple of monsters, that sort of thing.
Okay. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. I can't wait to try that out this Friday. Well, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment. Our next segment is What is About to Happen.
Okay, when we last saw Domenico Castafiel, he was riding on the party platform of Iotho Bruno. An assassin ran up through the crowd of party attendees and cut down one of Iotho's litter bearers. Iotho splatted onto the marble. We ended with the assassin grabbing Iotho by the nose. Iotho's wearing like an eye mask that has little antler horns, right? But he grabbed Iotho by the nose, pulled his head back, and is getting ready to cut Iotho's throat. We're picking up immediately from there.
Okay, so I need to know a little bit of information before I decide exactly what I'm going to do.
Sure.
Am I caught underneath Iotho in any way? Or am I touching him in any way?
No. I think you're just on the ground, kind of maybe like on all fours, right? And you see him getting ready to cut Iotho's throat. I will tell you that within moments, guards will be on the scene and maybe be able to catch this guy, or at least like chase him or whatever, right? After he does the deed. But they're not going to be here in time to stop him from killing Iotho.
Do I have enough time to get a spell off?
Possibly. If you would have like prepared your spells in such a way that you have them ready, all you have to do is just say the final like completion words to like make the spell happen, then yeah, I'm cool with that. I will say though that I'll warn you that without like a little more time to actually like focus at your casting, the failures might be a little swingy, right? Your magic might kind of go out of control a little bit more than you would expect. So you can do it, but it's going to involve some, the outcomes might be really bad if you blow it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go for it. I'm close enough to touch Iotho.
Sure.
So I'm gonna put a hand on him and mutter the last phrase of an incantation to mimic.
Oh, okay, cool. This assassin will like see you laying there, like, and then like, oh, there's another Iotho. Is that what you're going for?
I'm gonna, yeah. I mean, if I successfully transform into Iotho, I'm going to try and convince the assassin that he's got the wrong guy and like mock him, and hopefully he'll let go of Iotho and get chased by the guards before he can come over and kill me. Because God knows I won't be able to get away in the form of Iotho.
All right, go ahead and cast the spell.
Ooh, that looks good.
All right, go ahead, give me the on-screen.
So I come up and touch Iotho. I notice underneath him there is a small indentation of a shape of a man, but you can't see the man. I'm afraid that my unseen servant has gotten caught there. But I touch Iotho, and under my breath I mutter the final words of the incantation to transform myself. My beautiful doublet splits as my flesh erupts out of it. You can see my pudgy little hands, and all of a sudden breathing feels just oppressive because I'm so heavy and my arteries just feel so thick. And my lids of my eyes are so heavy that I can just barely open them like an infant. But I gaze out at the assassin and I say, "Bravo, bravo, you almost had me there." And I give little claps.
The assassin looks startled and confused, and that's enough for him to like, to stop his blade hand, right? And he looks at you quickly, and he looks down at the real Iotho, and he's not really sure what to do, and that's just enough time for a nearby guard to like jump at him and tackle him, and they tackle him down to the ground.
Awesome. Okay. I will drop this form as quickly as soon as they have him captured.
Nice.
It's
so
very
are you just standing there like naked then because your clothes ripped?
After I transform back, yeah, I think like I just grab like the remnants of my clothes and like wrap them around my waist, and like as a servant passes by, I say, "Give me that," and I grab their cloak.
Okay,
put it on.
Nice. So the party is totally disrupted, right? The guards come in. They take this guy away for like questioning, right? All of the party attendees, they begin to file out. Edvard, the major domo, is offering his apologies to all the attendees and promises that Iotho will be throwing an even more fabulous ball in a couple of weeks, right? And so everyone's filing out. Iotho has been lifted up and carried back to his quarters and to safety, and in case, because there's a lot of concern that there might be other assassins in the crowd, right? So he's been assisted back to the safe inner sanctums of his villa. What do you do? What are you at this moment?
Have I been escorted with him?
You can be. Would you try to have done that before him?
Yeah, I think I would try to like stay close to him and be like, I'll keep him safe. Don't worry. And like I'm part of the entourage or whatever. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. He can't walk, right? So he's put back on the litter and he's carried back deep into the manse. His personal chambers are They are the very definition of opulence, okay? The bed is enormous. It is so big. You could probably fit 10 men abreast in this gigantic bed. And it's covered, it's just mounded, like heaps of silk cushions, in different shades of purple and red and black. Probably 100 cushions, okay? All piled up all over this bed. In the room as well, there are all sorts of like beautiful chairs, made of like, very dark, dark black woods, locust woods, that sort of thing. Grand, tall windows with heavy drapes, that are in kind of a brocade, right? Very opulent. Rugs, furs, the whole 9 yards. They take him and they bring him in, and the procedure is basically just to kind of like tip him into the bed, right? And they do. The entrance to the room has to be like 2 wide, tall double doors just by necessity. And so he's carried in, and you're coming in right behind, and the litter bearers walk over to this bed and they just like tip him out and he rolls into it. He's been beside himself the whole time, just like desperately panting and frightened, just in quite a state. What are you doing right now?
Aside from like looking around for the treasure that I hope to find, I'm trying to like calm him down enough so that I can ask him questions about what's going on and if he needs my help and if he knows anything about this assassin or whatever.
Yeah, there are a bunch of people who are just kind of fussing over him the whole time, like servants and his guards and stuff. And everyone's a little, I think his like head bodyguard, this really, really like big, wide, muscular brute wearing heavy leathers and chainmail. His name is Victor. He's kind of like, at a certain point, he'll kind of put himself between you and Iotho, and he'll say, "I'm sorry. There's it's much too dangerous to have outsiders in here right now. You're going to have to leave."
Say, without me, he would already be dead. What do you mean? You can't have strangers in there. I'm not a stranger. I'm the one who kept him alive.
I think that's probably good leverage for parlay if you want to roll parlay.
Okay. 10.
He says, "All right, but you have to promise me this. There will be one guard inside the room at the door at all times with you if you're going to be in there with him."
No problem. As long as we're keeping him as safe as we possibly can.
Yeah, and they get Iotho in bed. The servants and various other people are ushered out at a certain point. It's just you and this guard in this room while you have your audience with Iotho. Iotho he's got like his little, it looks little, it's a normal sized hand, but it looks really tiny, right? Relative to his body. His little hand has a fan, and he's like desperately waving the fan, over his face, trying to calm himself. And in his other hand, he's got like a goblet of cool water, and you can see that like he has a really hard time getting his hand over to his mouth to like get the goblet into his mouth. You see his little tongue like trying to get to the cool water. He's just like, what do you do?
I look for a reed nearby. Like, I'm sure he's got all kinds of plants and things in here. And I take one of the reeds and I like crack off the top and crack off the bottom, and I climb atop him, and I stick it in his goblet, and I feed it to his mouth, and I say, this will help. This will help.
And he gets it in his mouth, and he begins drinking it. He's like, Domenico, you are very, very, very smart and very quick thinking as well.
Say, it has become a necessity, I'm sure you see, to continue in our business, and I hope that I can continue to further serve you with my quick-wittedness.
He says, "That sounds wonderful, Domenico. I must express my complete and utter gratitude at what you did for me tonight. I can't talk business right now, but perhaps in the morning. Would you stay with me?"
And I say, I will certainly maintain your guard within this chamber. Make sure that you can sleep peacefully.
The guard is there, giving you kind of a funny look. Iotho manages to, like, he kind of, like, makes a little spot for you on the end of the bed. He arranges a couple of cushions, you know. And then the guard comes and, like, dims the lanterns for the evening. And you hear the gentle flowing of the canals outside of Iotho's window and the cooing of nightingales. That's where we'll leave it.
All right, sounds good. That just leaves one final question. Who's really in control here?
That would be the Gauntlet gaming community. We can be found on G+ by going to the community section and searching for the Gauntlet. We also run games on our meetup group called Gauntlet Hangouts, which a link to which can be found in our G+ community. And we're on Twitter at Gauntlet RPG.
Awesome. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, listeners. That's our show. Can you hear that?
Hear what?
The freaking Office theme song. Is that coming through?
Oh, just barely, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to wait for it to be over.
Okay.
And then we'll do that.